What's good, everybody? Welcome in to another episode of Get Defensive Sports Network's I-80 football show. We are recording. We are also live. As always, I'm your host, Jordan. I'm here with my co-host, Dante.
What's good, man?
Chilling. It's been a long day. Not necessarily a bad day, like not a long day like it's bad, just like it's been a long day. You know how that be. How are you?
I do. I'm good. I got some sunlight, so that was pretty nice. First time, probably, I think, like all summer. Well, it was pretty good, but other than that,
You ain't going outside?
no, I've been outside, but like to specifically just get sun.
Oh, okay. I was about to say, like, what are you doing? What do you mean you ain't got no sunlight this summer?
No, I've been outside. I've definitely been outside. That's fine.
Okay. like you got something to worry about? Like,
Nah,
yeah, that would be crazy. Well, yeah. So we're here, another episode. It's still preview season. We are in our third of four preview episodes, previewing the Big Ten. At this exact moment, the best conference in college football. Unlike SEC fans, we do believe that can change. So maybe we won't be the best conference next year. But as of now, we're operating as the best conference in college football with the back-to-back national champions and multiple teams who are predicted to compete this year for national championship. So this week, because we don't have news, there's no traffic update. The road's clear. No cops are out. There's no traffic. There's no backup. Nobody's rubbernecking. Like we speeding. We doing whatever. We just on the road. It's a long stretch. We just on the road. So we just gonna get into our preview because there's no point in wasting time if there ain't nothing to talk about. This week we are previewing our sort of dark horse contenders, right? When we broke down the show, I went on top of the fact that there's 18 teams. You got to figure out how to break it down. And these are the teams that either we feel like, or based on that we feel like they're dark horses, or based on their schedule, they're dark horses, or even a couple of them, like national media is higher on than we are, but it sort of raises their tier above the two tiers, that we previously did, which was our bowl eligible tier and our bottom feeders. So these are not bottom feeders. These are teams 8, 9, 10 wins. One of these teams, if my prediction is correct, one of these teams is going to make the playoffs because I think the Big Ten is going to get 4 teams in the playoff again. So there's 3 teams remaining in our next tier. If the Big Ten gets 4 again, one of these teams will make the playoffs. So these are good teams. We're finally talking about good teams. But, you know, who knows where they're going to end up. Is our dark horse tier. Also could be called our upset tier, because some of these teams could definitely have the chance to ruin someone's season. Like one of those top contenders, they have a chance to ruin one of their seasons. So yeah, you want to get into it?
Yeah, we can get into it.
So this week we're talking Illinois, Indiana, Washington, Michigan, and Nebraska. For the nature of it's just how we got here, we're going to start with Michigan, especially because Michigan, in my opinion, could have been on this show or the next show. Michigan's a little bit weird.
I would say previous show, not the next
Yeah.
show.
No, sorry. Previous show. That's what I meant. Definitely not the next show.
Yeah.
They could have been on the previous show.
Yeah.
But we put them here. Michigan. Michigan is coming off of a disappointing season, but a season that saw them beat their rival, Ohio State, and saw them smack up Alabama in a bowl game. So depending on who you ask, there is the potential for some excitement. They are losing a lot. This is head coach Sharon Moore's second season. So you hope that, he's better. But there's a lot of questions about Michigan, which I think is interesting because there's a lot of people in the national media who's talking about Michigan as like a playoff contender.
Yeah, that's a little weird.
And the only way I can see that is because of their schedule, which is fairly easy. Like they could very easily go 10-2, and if they go 10-2, then they are technically a playoff contender. I just don't think they're going to go 10-2, because I don't think they're that good.
And if that was the case, when they should be getting the same kind of flack Indiana was getting last year. Then.
And so they won't because Oklahoma's on the schedule, but I think that's propped up.
Oklahoma
Indiana
and
didn't
Ohio
even have
State.
a right. Indiana played Ohio State last year and lost. If
Yeah.
Michigan loses to Ohio State, but Indiana didn't have an Oklahoma to help sort of boost the schedule. So
Okay.
yeah, Michigan is in an interesting spot. Some people think they're going to make the playoffs. Others think they're going to be a bad team. I'm somewhere in the middle. I like talking about Michigan here because we're going to spend a little bit of time talking about their incoming quarterback, who is expected to start. He's a freshman, and sort of what are realistic expectations for a freshman quarterback. Because I think to think Michigan is going to be in the playoffs, you're expecting this freshman to be very, very good immediately, and that just doesn't typically happen. So, since we brought it up, let's just talk about the freshmen, right? Let's just do that first. Let's do that first, and then
All right.
we'll go. So, Michigan had JJ McCarthy, former 5-star, was decent for them, got drafted in the first round. And then last year, they just had a mess. They were not prepared to lose
Right.
JJ. They had Davis Warren start for a couple of games. Alex Orji started for a couple of games, and he's a running back. Jack Tuttle started for a game or two, and then Warren came back in, and they just were not a good offense. They had a horrible quarterback. They just weren't prepared for the quarterback at all. So this year, I think off of I don't know where it came from. I'm not going to pretend that I know where it came from. Something happened. Someone was inspired to spend money at Michigan. Some of their boosters were inspired to donate money. And
Had
so
to be.
because of that, they went and essentially stole a quarterback from LSU, and I use air quotes around stole because he's from Michigan. He was just expected to leave Michigan and go to LSU. And basically, they came in with a crazy NIL offer. Don't know what it is, don't care because we don't count pockets on this show. But they gave him basically an NIL offer that he could not turn down. Also, similarly to Dylan Raiola, I think they also did the thing where it's like, if you go to LSU, you're going to have to sit for a year. Whereas if you come here, you're going to have to start, you can start immediately. Dylan Raiola was supposed to go to Georgia last year. If Dylan Raiola went to Georgia, he would have sat for a year, and this year would have been his first year starting. Instead, he went to Nebraska and started immediately. So I think between the starting immediately and whatever that NIL deal was, Bryce Underwood decided to go to Michigan, and he is their presumed starter. They also did sign Fresno State's Mikey Keene. He missed the spring, but they signed him, and it's depending on who you ask, it's questionable on how much of a quarterback battle it is. I don't. We don't. I'm not going to pretend to have insight on if this is a real battle or not. I imagine if you're asking me, I think that the 5-star quarterback's probably going to start over the super
Yeah.
senior, but if he's not ready, he's not ready. So I guess the question with this becomes, right, what do you think are realistic expectations for any freshman quarterback? Not even just this freshman quarterback, but just any freshman quarterback.
If the team is set up for him to come in and play, I can eight wins isn't too bad. What did Dylan Raiola do last year? 6.
Yeah. So I don't mean the team. I mean like his performance.
Oh, I mean, a young freshman, probably a few turnovers. Touchdowns and turnover numbers are probably going to be around equal. Usually that happens. Maybe like 2,000 yards, something like that. It'd be something like that. I think he'll have a good season. Michigan has a pretty easy schedule, and they have a pretty good defense. So I can see him having a freshman year, which would be like probably 13 touchdowns, 11 interceptions, 2,000 some yards.
Did you just guess that number? Did you just say that number off the cuff? Are you looking at something?
No, I just said that off the cuff.
Funny. That's perfect because do you know what Dylan Raiola did last year?
13 touchdowns and 11 interceptions.
Yep.
Yeah.
So you knew that.
I knew that, but it was like it's still off the cuff because it was like that's probably I think there's like a few other freshmen that did right around the same.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah. So I think that Dylan Raiola threw for 2,800 yards 13 interceptions, 13 touchdowns, 11 interceptions. He completed 67% of his passes.
I
Another
think he might
freshman,
have maybe less interceptions because I think they're going to run the ball a lot more.
I could see that for
Yeah.
sure. Another freshman quarterback who played 12 games, DJ Lagway at Florida. He threw for 1,900 yards, 12 touchdowns, 9 interceptions on a 59% completion percentage.
I will give
And
him.
then
I'll give him 60.
and then I will give you one more. If I can spell. Aiden Childs. And
Oh yeah.
DJ Lagway was the starting quarterback at Florida. Obviously, Dylan Raiola starting quarterback at. Why is this not coming up? Is that not his name? Not they don't have Aiden Childs stats. DJ. There we go. DJ Lagway. Starting quarterback at Florida. Aiden Childs was starting quarterback at Michigan State. He is not technically a freshman, but this was his first year starting. He's only a true sophomore. And he threw for 2,400 yards, the magic number, 13 touchdowns and 11 interceptions at 59% completion percentage. So to go back to Dylan Raiola, because he's the comparison that I sort of want to keep, even though all of these were 5-star quarterbacks, by the way, which is why I'm grouping them together. DJ Lagway, Dylan Raiola, and Aiden Childs were all five-star quarterbacks. All started pretty early. Dylan Raiola had the best season of all of them regarding like pure statistics, so we'll just stay on him so we don't have to keep going back and forth. And he's in the conference. I mean, so is Aiden Childs, but he's going to play against the same teams as Bryce Underwood and so on and so forth. So let's just look at the numbers very quickly. Over under 67% completion.
67.
Yeah, that's what Dylan had.
Oh, under.
Over under 2,800 yards.
Under.
Over under or push 13 touchdowns.
Push.
Over under or push 11 interceptions.
Under.
Under. Okay. So and I'll save the Dylan Raiola stuff more in depth for Nebraska, who we'll do next. The problem that I have with the Bryce Underwood thing, right, and this expecting Michigan to be a playoff team and all of this other stuff, is that Dylan Raiola had a pretty solid freshman year. And going into this year, his second year as a starter, people nationally are treating him like he's chopped liver. They're treating him like he has failed. They're treating him like he didn't live up to the 5-star billing. And as the 3 quarterbacks that we looked at, 2 other 5 stars, he had the best season. He had he was tied for the most touchdowns, similar number of interceptions. He had the most yards by 400. He had by far 8% better completion percentage, and he threw more than all of them. So he was just legitimately straight up a more accurate passer. He had more attempts. So I just think that if we, and not we, because we do not, me and you don't feel this way, if people are looking at Dylan Raiola's season and out of context and just forgetting that he's there, he's not on any of these top quarterback things, he's not on any Big Ten, like freshman, like All-American sort of things, all Big Ten players, he's on no list. You would forget, you could easily forget that Dylan Raiola even plays football the way that they're not talking about him.
Oh.
What is the likelihood that Bryce Underwood has a better season than Dylan?
It'd probably be around the same. It would have to be truly a perfect situation. Like it would have to fit perfectly just out of the blue, and the running game keeps him not having to throw the ball much, but then it can end up being like a surprise or something when he does throw the ball, and he could have big plays and things like that off of play action and something like that, because that can help a young quarterback, whether it's a freshman or a rookie or whatever. That's a tough ask from a team that's bringing in a lot of new players through the transfer portal and things like that. Like, and a second-year coach at that, who I don't know if it's good or not yet.
Yeah, I think I agree with that 100%, which is why I think that they're interesting, that there's so much hype around them, but they have so many questions. Like, I think Michigan is still, if this coach is good, which we don't know, if this coach is good, I think they're still a year or two away. I think that their schedule is going to sort of bloat their numbers. So to go into it a little bit, Michigan is losing. They didn't have a good quarterback, but they're losing. They're bringing in a new start at quarterback. They're losing
Right.
both of their running backs, Donovan Edwards and Khalil Mullins. They have Justice Haynes, who is a transfer, and Jordan Marshall, who I think is a second year player that they're excited about, but people will say that Justice Haynes isn't unproven, but Justin Haynes hasn't been great in his college career, and Jordan Marshall is unproven. On the offensive line, so last year, in 2024, they sent 6 guys pro on the offensive line, and last year they fell all the way to 107 in O-line run push and 49th in pass protection. And despite those being bad numbers, they also are losing 2 All Big Ten guards. All Big Ten players. They do return 3 starters, but they struggled, as we said, with this line. So they're bringing back 3 starters, but they're bringing back players who struggled and who did not live up to sort of the expectation of what Michigan's offensive line has been previously. And there's a chance that they have a true freshman starter who was a 5-star, but there's a chance that they have a true freshman starter. As a receiver, they have a guy named Tyler Morris who transferred to. Their projected best receiver transferred to Indiana. And then they brought in
Yeah.
Donovan McCulley. They still have Samaj Morgan, but essentially they have no playmakers at the wide receiver for like the third or fourth year in a row. And they lost All Big Ten tight end who was a number 10th pick in the NFL draft, Colston Loveland. So when
So
you
they
look at the
really don't have
offense,
an offense. Yeah.
really on offense, the only returners that they have is 3 offensive linemen and Samaj Morgan at wide receiver.
Yeah, it's gonna be tough for them to expect. If I don't know what they expect from the freshman quarterback if he does start. I don't know what they really expect from Michigan. They have a decent schedule, so they can pull off a bowl game again. But playoff team, I don't think so. I
Yeah,
know so. I know they're not.
I agree with that. On defense, they did have a pretty good defense last year, but that's also where all of their stars were on defense.
Hmm.
They had Mason Graham, Kenneth Grant, Josiah Stewart on edge. All of them are gone. All 3 of them are gone. And they also had for half the season, and he was mailing it in, if we're going to be honest. And then he got
Hmm.
injured. They had cornerback Will Johnson, who was also gone. At least, I don't remember where Josiah Stewart got drafted, but I'm fairly positive Kenneth Grant, I know for a fact Mason Graham, and were first round picks, and Will Johnson was picked in like the top 100. I don't exactly remember where he was. They do have a near 5-star in Derek Moore, who they're excited about on the defensive line, and they brought in 2 transfers, one from Clemson and one from Alabama, but they're essentially redoing their entire defensive line with transfers and players who haven't started with them. They
I think like 80. It sounds like 80% of their team is new.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, they let's see. On offense, I can tell you. On offense, they return 65% of their production, which that number seems high, and that's 41 first in the country. And on defense, they return 64%, and that's 22nd in the country. But those numbers also include like backups and things like that, of course. As
Okay.
far as their starters and their stars, they're almost all gone. Like they're losing almost all of their starters. They do
That's
have
good.
yeah, they do have a corner who's pretty good, Zeke Berry. But they also lost Makari Page and Quentin Johnston at safety. They're going to be starting Rod Moore, but I believe Rod Moore is injured. The
Damn.
best news that they sort of have on defense, the only the only place that they didn't lose starters is linebacker, which they have really good linebackers.
Yeah, they
As
do.
someone that likes linebackers, I can't hate on their linebackers. And Ernest Hausman and Jay Sean
They led the team
Barham,
in tackling,
yeah,
respectively.
yep, they had 89 and 66 tackles. They returned. So that, I mean, that's huge. Linebackers are very underrated on defense. I say it all the
Team
time.
owner
Like,
of the defense.
yeah, I say it all the time. Like, a great linebacker may not win you a game, but a bad linebacker will absolutely lose you a game.
Definitely can.
Like, yeah, I get it. Like the Colts had one of the best linebackers in the league last year. He broke the league record for tackles with like 179. Didn't help us win games, but if we didn't have him, we may have had the first or second pick. Which at that point, sit him down. We need the first or second pick. We need to stop. We need to start losing these games. But yeah, so essentially, Michigan is losing all of their stars. They're losing their top running backs. Both running backs. They lost their star tight end. They lost.
They went in the transfer, or they went to the draft.
All these players went to the draft.
Draft. Okay, that's what I thought.
Yep, they lost to the best. You could argue maybe second with Texas, but in my opinion, the best defensive tackle duo they've ever had, but in the country. They lose a really good edge rusher. They lose a star corner who was supposed to be a first round pick, but some injuries and some things happened, but he was still taken pretty high. And they lose two safeties, and they're giving the reins to a freshman quarterback. This does not say to me a playoff team. I don't know about you, but this tells, like, if their schedule was harder, I think this team would struggle. Yeah, like that's what I would say. But I do think they have a pretty easy schedule, which is going to help them and which is going to be huge for the freshman quarterback.
They could still go 6-6 for real.
So yeah, before we go to the schedule, do you have any last thoughts about Michigan?
Yeah, it's like I was saying, this team could easily go 6-6, even 5-7, because of the whole new look offense and defense. Their schedule is still favorable for them. I just don't see where people are getting a playoff team. Even with the transfers and things like that, they lost so much. I'm not getting. I don't know. Maybe I'm not. I haven't seen it, but I guess they. What are they to start the season before the season started? They're ranked what? 14 or something like that.
Honestly, I don't know.
I know. I don't think they're the number 14, the number 4 best team in the Big Ten.
I don't think that either. I mean, the number 4 team in the Big Ten is going to make the playoffs most likely.
Probably,
or be that first team out. So
yeah, and I can't see them being that good to consider that as a possibility for this team. 18th overall. Yeah, no, I don't even.
So that's not their ranking. That's where the guy in the magazine ranked them.
I mean, regardless, still, I can't see why they would think that at all.
Yeah, I think. Let's see.
I know
they are ranked in the coaches poll. I think you may be right. I think they're 14th in the coaches poll, and people are out here talking about like, oh, they're underrated, and it's like, what team are you watching? Yeah, they are 14. Okay. It's like, what team are you expecting? Freshman, and that's. I just want people. I'm showing the wrong schedule. I just want people to remember just like how hard it is to start as a freshman, and I think that. Not even just as a freshman, just in general, how hard it is to start for the very first time, but especially as a freshman when you're adjusting to college, you're adjusting to all of these things, all of these expectations, and like legitimately they just don't have a great roster. They have their defense should probably be pretty good again. I've heard some people say they're going to have a top 10 defense. I don't think they're going to have a top 10 defense. They didn't even have a top 10 defense last year.
And and that's probably the best their defense is going to be for the next few years. I would say in the next 5 years. That's the next they get a top 10 defense.
That's not going to happen. Okay, schedule. They started with New Mexico State. Sorry, not New Mexico State, just New Mexico. That's a different team. That's a win. We both have that as a win. Yeah. Then they play Oklahoma. Oklahoma, I think, is a similar team in a similar position. but Oklahoma's coach needs this win a lot more than Michigan does. Oklahoma, as we not in this show, but if you want to hear us talk about Oklahoma, we talked about that in our SEC preview on the Power 2 podcast. Oklahoma is bringing in a new offense. They're bringing in a transfer quarterback. The offensive coordinator they brought in is the guy who was Cam Ward's coach. I have them losing to Oklahoma. You have them winning. Is this sort of like a toss-up game for you? Is this game, were you on the fence about this game, or how do you feel about the Michigan-Oklahoma game?
I was on the fence about it. I think Michigan. I think Michigan is, even last year, is a team that can beat an SEC team. They've beaten Alabama. They're like in the bowl game. I think they're one of those teams in the Big Ten where they're still good enough to be better than some SEC teams, including Oklahoma, who wasn't that good in the SEC last year. And since they're similar teams, I'm going to give the edge to Michigan, unfortunately.
Yeah, this year I'm going to give it to Oklahoma, especially early in the season, right? You're taking a freshman quarterback to Oklahoma, his first big game, and I just think they have the better quarterback right now. They have the better offensive coordinator. I don't know about a better defense, but they're probably going to have I just think Oklahoma is a slightly better team. I don't think Oklahoma's a great team. I don't think Oklahoma's making the playoff. But at this point, especially week 2, if this was week 4, maybe I'd consider differently. If this was at Michigan, maybe I'd consider differently. But going to Oklahoma, I could see him throwing 2 quick interceptions in that game just being done. So the next game, Central Michigan, we both have a win. Nebraska, we both have a loss. Then they're on a bye week. They play Wisconsin, USC, Washington, Michigan State, and Purdue before their next bye. And these are all winnable games. Are they going to win all these games? No, neither one of us have them winning all these games. But these are all middle-tier Big Ten teams. These are all a couple of them, Purdue for sure, Michigan State, are teams that they should be better than. Wisconsin is probably a team that they're better than as well. I know you're lower on USC, but I think USC is probably at an equal footing with them right now, and Washington is probably equal or a step above. So these are all games that they could win. This is where we're going at talking about them having a pretty easy schedule, because they're not getting Indiana, they're not getting Illinois, they're not getting Oregon, they're not getting Penn State. Like, they're missing the top of the top. They're all playing teams either equal or lesser than them. We both have them beating Wisconsin. You have them beating USC. I have them losing. I think USC gets them this year. And then we sort of flip this. You have them losing to Washington. I have them winning. I'm going to keep it, but I want to change that. I don't like that. But it doesn't matter. I think I'm not, I'm going to stick with it, but I think I did that for numbers' sake, I think. Either way, I have them beating Washington. I think Washington probably wins that game. But in the prediction, that's what I did. But I think they're similarly equal teams. Also, this is at Ann Arbor, and Washington didn't win a single game away from home last year. So they do still need to figure that out. Then they play Michigan State. I have a win. You have a loss. And then we both have a win for Purdue. So we disagree on all of these games. We disagree on USC, Washington, and Michigan State. But I think that sort of just shows the point that we're talking about, and that these are all toss-up games, and there's no sort of guarantee. There's no, except Purdue. Purdue's a pretty easy guarantee.
That should be a good one for them.
And then they get a bye week, and then they get Northwestern and Maryland. So there's a bye week in between, but in a 3-game stretch, they get the 3 worst teams in the Big Ten.
With a bye week.
With a bye week, going into the Ohio State game. And they get Purdue, Northwestern, Maryland, the 3 worst teams in the Big Ten.
I would honestly almost give them the win against Ohio State just because of that. Almost. Because also something's been weird with that game the past 4 years, so... Almost. I'm not gonna do it though. Obviously,
Yeah.
you see that I don't, but I almost did it because of that.
Yeah. Man, this schedule's gross.
It's a good schedule. If they were
I
a
mean,
bad
it's good
team,
for
it'd be
them.
crazy. Yeah, if they were a
Yeah.
really, really good team, they could go undefeated.
Oh yeah, if they were a good team, they could easily go undefeated.
Yeah.
But yeah, so we both have them winning the last 3 games, and then both have a loss to Ohio State, which very differently we got there differently, but we both have Michigan 8-4. I think that's fair. I think that they're an 8-4 team. I really think they're a 6-6
I was gonna
team
say, I'm really
with
think
an
they're a
easy
6-6 team.
schedule, which makes them an 8-4 team. Which, hey, good for them. But so much of this definitely rests on the shoulders of
That
their
defense.
freshman quarterback and their defense. Because ultimately, if the freshman quarterback throws 15 interceptions or something like that, like it's just going to be really hard for them to come back from. Next team we're going to talk about is Nebraska. Nebraska is fresh off of their first bowl game in years. Very, very, very long time. They
First
had a
bowl
7.
game- What I read it somewhere. It's like 40, 50 years, or maybe even more.
It hasn't been that. It's definitely not been that long.
Not that long. Oh, I'm sorry.
It's
I read something else.
7 years.
Okay.
Yeah. So it's 7 years. They hadn't made a bowl game in 7 years, and So they break their 7-year streak that's seen multiple coaches. They have a 5-star quarterback in Dylan Raiola. They have a coach who historically at 3 different places, which is why you can say historically. I mean, he's sort of proved, at least it's 2 different places, has really, really good years. His 3rd year, they're bringing in again a 5-star quarterback going into his 2nd year, so that is very exciting. And they've done some sort of portal things and some stuff like that. And so Nebraska's in a place where I think first of all, they need to 100% improve off of last year, right? I think this is a team that doesn't want to question if they're going to be bowl eligible. The way their season went last year, they essentially waited till the last 2 weeks to get bowl eligible. They started out 5-1 and then lost 4 straight games. And so it was very much like, not again, this is going to happen to us, we're not going to be bowl eligible. And they beat Wisconsin and got it before their last game, which was Iowa. And then they beat Boston College in the bowl game.
On them, right?
On Wisconsin, yeah, they beat them 44-25.
Yeah.
And then they lost to Iowa 13-10. They beat Boston College, which I went to that game. It was in New York, the Pinstripe Bowl, and they ended the end of the year with 7 wins. So that was a good season. It sort of got the monkey off their back, especially again, like you imagine this team, they start out 5-1. You're like, oh, bowl eligibility is exactly that, like no question. And then they lose 4 straight games. And 3 of the 4 straight games, including somehow Ohio State, like I watched that game. That game was way too close for comfort. 3 of those games were all 1-score losses. So it was a continued. Yeah, it was a continued trend since 2018. This is multiple coaches since 2018. They're 10-35, 10 wins to 35 losses, and 1-score games. So it was very much like, oh God, we're gonna get to 5-1, and then we're gonna lose all these games. I won't get stuck on this because we made the point with Michigan. Dylan Raiola had a good freshman year, right? He was a true freshman. I think my favorite thing about Dylan Raiola is just like he would make some throws that you're like, that's an NFL throw. Like we talked about it a lot last year, and for those of you listening, if you're gonna watch Nebraska, I want you to pay attention to them. He has a really good arm. Like he has the ability to layer passes. If you don't know what that means, if there's a linebacker and the safety, layering the passes, putting it over one player and in front of another. And very good with that. But then the problem with that is he's a freshman and he knows he could do that. So he would try to do that at times when he couldn't or shouldn't, and he would sail or he would throw an interception or he would hit somebody in the head who should have caught the ball. So as you progress, you get that 2nd year under you. You have 13 games of experience, and
He's a little ahead of himself.
Yeah, he should be pretty good. So the question then is, what is the rest of the offense going to do? Like if we say Dylan Raiola is going to be good, and we expect that Dylan Raiola is going to improve on last year, maybe not the completion percentage, but improve the yards, improve the touchdowns less. interceptions. The question then is, who do they have on the team?
True.
So they revamped the receiver room. They lost 3 of their top 4 wide receivers, but they brought in a pair of 4-star transfers in Dane Key and Naziah Hunter, who were both really good players. Key is a 3-year starter from the SEC at Kentucky, and Hunter had a really good true freshman year. And then they also have Ja'Cory Barney, who tied the Nebraska freshman record with 55 catches for 447 yards. So, and then they also signed 2 highly rated recruits in high school. So they have a wide receiver room that they feel good about. They have 2. They have an established 3-year starter. They have 2 guys who broke out as freshmen, and then they have some young guys, one being a top 100 player as incoming freshmen that they're pretty excited about. Also, new offensive coordinator, Dana Holgerson took over. Dana Holgerson took over very, very late. And so they have a full offseason with Dana Holgerson. And then they brought in Dante. Whoa, hold on.
He transferred out.
No, he transferred out. So they lost Dante Dowdell. They also lost Ramir Johnson and Gabe Irving. So they are sort of starting over at running back. They have Emmett Johnson, who is a guy who really came on at the end of the season. So you're hoping with the full season of him. And then they have a young player that's coming back. The big question for them, though, right? They have some decent skill. I would call it good, but not great. It's not in the Ohio State, Bama, that tier, but much better than what Michigan has, right? It's better than what a lot of these teams have. It's probably better than what most of the teams that were in the previous 2 shows have.
Oh, yeah.
The big question is their offensive line. They lose 2 starters, one of which was a Big Ten, all Big Ten honorable mention. But they also have 2 starters from last year and a trio of veteran tackles recovering from injury. So they have veterans. It's just about if the line is going to gel. They also brought in some players from the portal. They brought in Elijah Pritchard, who was a starting left tackle at Alabama. They brought in Rocco Spindler, who was a starting guard at Notre Dame. Both of those players, both of those teams are known for a good offensive line, so they're also bringing in that. And so, if their offensive line is better, when you think about the talent that we just sort of talked about, you can kind of see some positive signs for an offense that should be top 40, could push for top 30, a team that can definitely put some points up on people. On defense, though, they lost.
Definitely try too.
Yeah. On defense, they lost their defensive coordinator, though.
Damn.
That is tough. Tony White, he took Nebraska in 2023 and 2024. They had top 20 rushing defenses. Last year, they were 17th in scoring defense. They were 18th in total defense. They were 8th in rushing defense. That's why that Ohio State game was close.
Yep.
Not good in the pass. You could complete passes on them. They're 109th in completion percentage, 102 in completion rating, 84 in yards per attempt. So you could throw on them, but you couldn't run on them. But they did lose their defensive coordinator. Tony White went to... Where did he go? Did he go to Miami? Florida State. Tony White went to Florida State to be their defensive coordinator, and he took the D-line coach with him. So they promoted from within, and then they hired Phil Snow as an associate head coach to sort of help with that. Yeah. Their entire defensive line is gone, which is tough. Yeah. They have a trio of 4 stars, but their entire defensive line is gone. The one really good positive, though, is they did land Williams Nwornu, who was the number 1 defensive line transfer in the portal. He was a former 5-star defensive lineman, so if he lives up to the billing, they are going to have one of the best edge rushers in the conference. They play at 3-3-5. They also lost their top 4 linebackers. So they lost their entire starting defensive line and their entire linebackers, all of their linebackers, which is, this is the thing. If Nebraska doesn't have the season that we think they're going to have, it's going to be because they lost everything on their defense. They're losing most of their starters, and they lost their defensive coordinator. They're only bringing back.
Stop the run too. You lost everything that stopped that run.
Yeah. They're bringing
tough.
back 52% of their returning production, which is 74th in the country. Not good.
Not good.
Not good. The one benefit though, the thing that up and down on if it's a benefit, they return all 4 starters in the secondary. But again, this was a secondary that wasn't good. So how beneficial is that?
Maybe
I don't know.
It could be a good thing to like with experience with each other and playing with one another. The sad part is that it's a whole new defensive coordinator.
Mm-hmm.
So with possibly the same DB's coach, but I mean, it could be good just because of the chemistry and experience with one another. But other than that, it's a little worrisome. Honestly, Nebraska is just as scary as Michigan.
Agreed. The thing that I would give Nebraska though is they have the better quarterback.
Yeah.
And they just in general they have the better skill position. Maybe even the better offensive line right now, which is crazy to say. Like I just think that their offense is significantly better. Michigan's defense though is going to be significantly better. They did lose a lot, but Michigan has been better on defense. So, I think Nebraska and Michigan are in very sort of similar places. But I do give that bump, right, for being a third-year coach, a coach who's not new, right? He's coached in the NFL. He's coached at Temple. He coached at Baylor. I think it was Baylor. He's been multiple places versus Sharon Moore, who just is a first-time head coach going into his second season. So I think there's a lot of sort of positives that are going Nebraska's way, but still not a playoff team. We're not talking about a playoff team, but we're talking about a team who should firmly make a bowl game and should save their fans from some worry. They should reach a bowl game pretty early. So, any final thoughts on Nebraska? Or you want to do the schedule?
We could get into the schedule.
Okay. And as we're doing the schedule, as a reminder, because we did not say this on this show, and I'm not even sure if we said it last week, as we go through the schedule, what we say on this show, we stick to. We pick every single game in the Big Ten. It is a contest. The loser has to buy something for the winner. We do not change this, right? What we say today will stay the same in November, no matter how we're feeling. You get to watch our sort of live regret. But we're also pretty good at it. We're also pretty good at it.
The most fun.
Yeah, over 70%. For sure. Just like, oh my gosh. So, let's get into it. Let's pick it. So they start out with Cincinnati. I have a win, you have a loss. They play Akron, which is an easy dub. They play Houston Christian, which is an easy dub. And then they play Michigan. You have a win. I have a loss. I think that's interesting to have them losing to Cincinnati and beating Michigan. I picked a loss. I picked a win for Michigan largely because the hard thing with these schedules, right, to get a look behind the curtain, is you sort of want to get to a number or something that you think is realistic, and you can't push everyone up, right? And so it's just like, do I really think Nebraska is going to be a 9-3 team? I'm not sure. So then where did the loss come from? And so for me, it was more realistic that Nebraska was 9-3. Was 8-4, and Michigan was 8-4, than Nebraska being 9-3 and Michigan being 7-5. That is still very possible, though. Of course, right? Like that could absolutely happen. Oh no! Oh no!
What?
I messed up.
Uh-oh.
On the Michigan, I gave Nebraska that win.
Oh.
So that means I do have 9 and... No, they're still 8-4.
Oh, yeah.
I just have Nebraska going 9-3. I don't like that, but I'm sticking to it. You know what I'm saying? There ain't no changing it now. We already did Michigan's schedule, so we both have a win. So I have, that is not what I wanted. That is not. Speaking of easy schedules, though, Nebraska's
Mm-hmm.
schedule's very, very, very easy.
Pretty
Very,
decent.
very easy. Okay, so I have Nebraska as 4-0. You have them at 3-1, and going into their bye week. Then they play they play Michigan State, which is a team that they can lose to, but we both have a win. They play Maryland, who they should beat. They play Minnesota, which is definitely a team that they could lose to, but we both have a win. So at that point, I have them bowl eligible. Sorry. At that point, I have them 7-0, which is not great. You have them 6-1, so we both have them bowl eligible by week 8.
Yeah.
They then play
No.
Northwestern, which should be an easy dub.
Yeah.
They play
8-0.
USC, who is a team that they could lose to, but we're again expecting. No, sorry, we're expecting a loss
They
there,
could
but that's a
win.
team that they could
Yeah,
beat. And then they play UCLA. I have a win, you have a loss.
Yeah.
And then they go on a bye week. Then they finish off with Penn State and Iowa. These are two games that they, in my opinion, they should lose, but you have them beating Iowa. Why do you have them beating Iowa?
Crazier things. That's my crazy things happen.
Fair.
Yeah. That's gonna be my crazy things happen game.
And I'm glad that I
Like,
have
I
them.
can't believe that worked.
I'm glad I have them losing to Iowa because otherwise I'd have had them at 10-2. But this is our dark horse tier. Like I was talking about Michigan having an easy schedule. Nebraska's schedule is so easy. Like oh my, like they play no one.
They're gonna start off 8-0.
I don't love that, but like here's the thing. I don't fully believe that. But one of the trademarks of this show that I will not go back on is that once we say it, we can't switch it. So I could not switch the Michigan one, and I realized that I gave Michigan the loss. But also, I do believe that it doesn't matter. Nebraska's 9-3 according to me, and they're going to start out 8-1, 8-0. They're going to have a whole lot of hype behind them. And then they're going to lose 3 of the last 4, if you ask me. You have them also losing 3 of the last 4 because that's when their schedule gets difficult. But honestly, we're talking about who could be this year's Indiana. It's Nebraska. Because if Nebraska wins 10, 11 games, they're going to be a team that people want in the playoffs, and we're going to be looking at their schedule like, who did they play? The only team that they played is Penn State, and they got the doors blown off of them, hypothetically. But if they only have 1 loss or 2 losses, which, while not feasible, is entirely possible, it is entirely possible that they beat everyone on their schedule but Penn State. The one thing that they can't have happen, though, the one thing that they cannot have happen, though, is they cannot start out 10-0 and then lose to Penn State and Iowa. Because that to end the season on a 2-game losing streak is not going to help their potential
It depends on
playoff
how
bid.
they lose.
The Iowa game, yeah, you're right. The Iowa game has to be close because everyone will just like sort of poo-poo the Penn State one. If they lose the Iowa, it has to be close. Like they can't just get dominated. But we're looking at 9-3 North Nebraska, I guess 8-4 if you ask you.
I'm going for. I'm more comfortable with 7-5, but I
Listen.
couldn't find the fifth L.
Bro,
Michigan
this schedule is very easy. But even still, and saying it's easy, it is. We do have to be realistic in that there are teams close to their level that could beat them on any given Saturday, sort of thing. Like they're not so dominant above these teams that it's impossible for them to lose, especially with their defense. The problem that I have is most of the teams that they play, though, outside of USC, are not big offensive threats. So like Michigan could beat them if Michigan's run game is good, but their O line wasn't great. But if Michigan's run game is good and they control the clock, that's a team that can beat them. But Michigan State's offense probably isn't going to be good. Maryland's offense isn't good. Minnesota's offense is never good. They always have good running backs, but their offense as a whole isn't good. Northwestern's offense isn't going to be good. And then it's USC's offense will probably be good. UCLA's we have no idea. Penn State should be just very good, pretty solid, and we don't know about Iowa. But like, if we're being, let's say we're not being generous to some of these teams, if we're basing it on past performance, there are only 2 teams on this schedule who have any semblance of a good offense. and it's USC and Penn State. So even if their defense struggles, if their offense is really good, they could again be last year's Indiana this year, where they just blow a bunch of teams out.
Yeah.
I'm not predicting it, but Indiana didn't play anybody, and so they just put up 50. Like, it's kind of crazy.
And no one saw Indiana doing what that happened, and it could easily be the same thing. I don't think it's going to be, but it could easily end up being the same thing as Indiana.
Yeah. With this schedule, it's funny because not everyone on this group has an easy schedule, that is for sure. But last week we were just talking about how hard the schedules were, and then the first two teams we're talking about this week is like, well, that's a cakewalk. But I mean, I think that is one of the interesting things with these large conferences now, is that so much of who's going to be good or bad is truly dependent on the schedule. It depends on if you draw the top of the top. And if you draw the top of the top, then you may end up being a 6-win team. And if you don't, you could get to 8 or 9 wins. Like, I think that's how a lot of these teams in the middle, right? Your Washingtons, your Nebraskas, your Iowas, your Ole Miss, Missouri, those teams in these big conferences, your Syracuse's or whatever, your Pitts, right? It's like, who do you have in out of conference, and who do you get 3 of the top 4 teams, or do you get 3 of the bottom 4 teams? And that's really sort of going to determine your placement. I really think that the middle of these conferences, there's going to be a lot of fluctuation. Because if you get Ohio State, Penn State, and Oregon in the same year, what do you want us to say? And somebody's playing Ohio State, Penn State, and Oregon in the same year.
Unless you've shown that you're one of those, you're just like them, and it's been like consistent, like you're one of them, then it's like a toss-up. But until that happens, these teams that are in the middle, or when they draw the luck of the draw, some might say, you might get one of them depending on the year. But that's depending on the year.
Exactly. So, why did I do that? This is the problem with doing this live. It's just like, I'm like looking at this stuff and I'm like, why did I do? Oh, I know why I did that. Okay. I'm trying to figure. So I will just tell you right before we get into this, we're going to move to Washington. I have Washington beating Illinois, and I'm trying to figure out why I have Washington beating Illinois. And so I go, as you do, I go to Illinois' schedule and I'm looking at it, and it's like, oh, because if they don't win that game, then I have Illinois going 11-1. Mm-hmm. Because theme of the show, Illinois also has an easy schedule. We're gonna save Illinois for next, but Illinois only plays Ohio State.
Every team we're gonna talk about besides probably Indiana.
That's hilarious. Because last week everyone had a hard schedule. Like, it's so funny how it switched so quickly.
Washington has Ohio State and Oregon, but it's split.
It's so far apart.
Yeah.
And then basically every other game is technically winnable, maybe depending on how you feel about Illinois, how you feel about Michigan. But Washington is easily an 8-4, 9-3 team off the schedule. Just if you're a fan of any of these teams, just every single, and it's not going to happen every single year. There's going to be some years where you get the bad luck of the draw. But if you listen to last week's show and this week's show, you should be thanking your lucky stars you do not have the schedule of the teams last week, where many of them had Ohio State, Oregon, Penn State. Then they were also getting Illinois and Indiana and just different things like that. These teams are pretty much skating free. And that made it really hard to pick their schedules, because I'm like, I don't believe Illinois is going 11-1. But that schedule says Illinois might go 11-1.
Yeah, you messed up again, because you got Washington losing to Oregon. Oh, I messed up. Did we both messed up?
Where?
For the Washington Oregon game, because I have both of them winning, but you all have it both losing.
Oh. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Good catch. Oregon's next week, but good catch. My Washington one would have been correct. My Oregon one would have been wrong. Okay, so Washington. Washington was in the national championship a couple years ago, and then they were literally 2 years ago, and then they were hurt by Nick Saban's retirement. They lose their head coach Kalen DeBoer to Alabama. They lose almost their entire roster, many of them going to the league, the rest of them following Kalen DeBoer to Alabama. They get Jed Fish as the head coach, and they win 6 games last year, which was good for them. And it's hilarious. Washington was legitimately, they were the perfect Big Ten team immediately. They just like fit right in the middle, right in this sort of hard nosed, like quarterbacks erratic, good running game, tough defense that like sort of bends, stops the run. Like, yeah, I mean, it literally like it literally in it just was funny sort of how they like they were a perfect big, and they're on the West Coast, they were a perfect like old Big Ten West team. They just fit in perfectly with your Minnesotas, your Wisconsins, like that sort of style of play, which I don't think is how they expect to play, how they expect to be always, but just with the sort of short turnover, the new staff, losing so many players, I think that's what they had to do. They also last year they also had the hardest schedule in the league, playing 7 of the top 10. So getting to 6-6 with that schedule is a huge plus. Jed Fish is a pretty good coach. He won at multiple places, but they are losing both coordinators. Jed Fish did the like NFL legend thing where he hired Brennan Carroll, the son of Pete Carroll, and Steve Belichick, the son of Bill Belichick. Both of them left. Both of them went to their father's staff. Brennan went to the Raiders with his dad, and Pete went to Chapel Hill, North Carolina, with his dad. So they are replacing both coordinators, but I know we typically do offense and defense, then defense, and I will sort of keep that. They got a really good defensive coordinator. Yeah. So let's see. On offense, they have, where is it at? Why can't I find
yeah.
They have, on offense, they have Damon Williams. He was a true freshman quarterback last year. Someone that we did not talk about with when we were talking about Michigan, but he also was a freshman quarterback. He finished the year with 78% completion percentage, 8 touchdowns and 1 pick, and he finished the team. And he finished.
He
second.
only played. He didn't play the full season.
Yeah, and he finished second on the team in rushing. Behind Jonah Coleman, who is a stud. So there's a lot of hype, a lot of intrigue around Damon Williams as a full year starter, and how he gets better, how he progresses, and how he plays as a full year. But I think he's a pretty good player. Last year they had Jonah Coleman, who put up 1,057 yards, and he did not go to the NFL. I love this. Like, I'm a big fan of Jonah Coleman. I think Jonah Coleman and Damon Williams is a crazy running back quarterback duo, and he put off the NFL to come back for another year. He was all Big Ten third team last year. He's going to be one of the best running backs in the country. So that right there is great for them. Looking to their wide receivers, though, they did lose some wide receivers, so they are going to have to figure out the wide receivers. They have some outgoing seniors, and they added some transfers, but like nobody who like really has like a big name. So wide receiver is potentially going to be an issue for them. They also lost tight end, which may be an issue for them. So they do have to figure that out. The tight end that they had that's coming back led all true freshmen in receiving and was a true freshman All-American. So they do hope, his name is Decker DeGraff. That is the name. So they do hope that he continues to sort of grow. But they do sort of lose their pass catchers.
Yeah. But they want to run the ball anyway right now.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah. It's a rebuild in a way to try to get to that championship DNA, but they'll still make a bowl game and be competitive in the Big Ten. I think they've always they were last year, and I think they'll be even scarier this year.
Yeah. Their offensive line wasn't great last year. They were 112th in sack rate, 54th in O-line run push, but their 3 interior starters were all former 4-stars, and they have a 2-year starter coming in from Kansas State. So the hope is that their offensive line is better. They can better protect the quarterback. They can be better in the running game because they do have a good running quarterback, and they do have a really, really good running back in Jonah Coleman. On defense, somebody let them get Ryan Walters. I don't know who let them get Ryan Walters. That is one of the, like, we don't do a whole lot of coordinator hire conversations. It's really hard to sort of keep up with, especially with 18 teams and all over the country and all these things. It's really hard to sort of keep up with coordinators, but I saw this one immediately. And I've been thinking about it all offseason. Ryan Walters was not a good head coach. That is very unfortunate. But Illinois is where it's at now because of Ryan Walters. Some of the transfers, some of the hype, some of the things as you build is because of how good their defense was with Jersey and Newton. With I can't think of the corner's name right now, but he's a really good corner in the league.
Yeah, I can't think of
It's not Sauce. He was in the same class as Sauce, though. I can't think of his name right now. I think it's the corner that's on the Seahawks. Ryan
Kobe
Walters.
something?
Is it Kobe? Yeah. I can't remember his name right now, but in 2022 they had the number one pass defense in the country at Illinois. He turned multiple 3-star recruits into NFL players. He was not good at Purdue, but they get him at basically what he's good at.
How long was he at Purdue? 2 years.
2 years, yeah. They get him back to doing.
Say he was bad or not.
He was awful. We watched it. He was awful. He just should have never taken that job, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
So this year they are losing 4 linebackers, but they're bringing in 3 Power 4 starters, one from Arizona, one from UCF, and one from Washington State. Yep. They brought in 3 transfers on the defensive line. One is a 340-pound nose tackle and a 370-pound player. So there's going to be a lot of beef up the middle.
That's just gigantic.
Yeah. just ridiculous.
70 pounds is
They
crazy.
had a really good pass defense last year, even without Ryan Walters. Yeah. And Ryan Walters is a safeties coach, right? Is a corners coach. Last year they were number 2 in pass defense, number 1 in yards per attempt, number 5 in explosive pass. You just could not pass on them.
They're top 20 in everything.
They were top 16 really. I mean, which is close to 20, but yeah. But they are losing 2 of their good players, but they return corner Ephesians Prysock, and they brought in a couple of transfers, and ultimately they are just bringing back a better defensive coordinator. No hate to Steve Belichick, but Ryan Walters is not going to stomach a bad rushing defense, right? Yeah. He's not gonna have a defense that's 128th in negative play percentage. He's not gonna have a defense that's 87th in rushing defense. And while he may not have a top 5 passing defense just because of some changes, it's still probably gonna be top 15, top 20. So ultimately, this defense as a whole should be better. Because last year you could just beat Washington by just running the ball on them, and that's what a lot of teams did. Yeah. So you look at it, they have a second year with a good coach, a second year with a dynamic quarterback. They get their running back. They have some good transfers on the offensive line, and they bring in one of the best defensive coordinators in the country. And then to tie it all up in a bow, they play 5 of the league's worst 8 teams.
Mm-hmm. They got an easy schedule with a new defensive coordinator, which is one of the best. That's just
it's sort of unfair.
Nothing better. You can't ask for nothing better. They'd be in the playoff. They would be a playoff or at least a championship favorite if this was like 2012, 2022.
Yeah. And also I think but the thing is I'm really high on Washington in the future. I think that this is a team that is going to get back to making the playoff pretty consistently. I don't think they're going to be the top of the Big Ten, but I think they're going to be in that next group, right? I think it's always going to be Ohio State, Penn State, Oregon, and then Michigan has a chance to sneak back up to make it that sort of Power 4 and the conference sort of thing. I'm not convinced they're going to do it with this coach, but if they make the right hire, they can sort of get there. But that next group, which is I think is gonna rotate your Illinois, Indiana's, Nebraskas, Washingtons, those teams. I think that they're gonna stay there and sort of be that team that's always right on the bubble. And a 12-team playoff, if it's a 16-team playoff, they're probably gonna get in there a lot. I think a team that sort of finishes top 20 almost yearly, at least finishes in the top 25 more years than not. I think this is a team that's going to get back to that, and that may start as early as this year. There's definitely a lot to like about this team, most notably the schedule. So they start out with Colorado State, UC Davis. That is both should be wins. They get a very early bye, which is gross, but they may like it because they get it before going to play their rival in the Apple Cup. We have them starting 3-0. They play Ohio State. That is in Washington, but still have that as a loss. And then they play Maryland and Rutgers. I have 2 wins. You have a loss to Rutgers. I imagine that's just one of those things can happen sort of stuff.
Mm-hmm. I don't think Rutgers is that far off from Washington. Washington's going to be a better team, especially on defense. But I could see this early on, especially coming off of 3 games now. Washington State, Ohio State, and Maryland. Yeah, 3 games off an early bye. Ohio State blowout probably more than likely. They could sneak. They could do something silly and lose to Rutgers.
Yeah. I disagree, but only because, and I know, like, I think this is something that I'm more attuned to than you are. This game is in Washington at 9 p.m. Eastern.
Oh, man.
And it's on a Friday.
Oh,
I'm not sure Rutgers is showing up for that game. I'm sorry. I just think, I do think we sort of overrate sometimes the East-West Coast kind of thing. But I think that this year, this is one of those ones that does matter. I think this is one of those ones, I think they get Rutgers. Then they play Michigan. You have a win, I have a loss. They play Illinois. You have a loss, I have a win. I've already sort of backtracked the Illinois thing. Don't really love that one. But I don't want this team to be 10-2. And if they... Sorry, I didn't want Illinois to be 11-1. So had to give them a loss somewhere. I think Washington is a good enough team to beat Illinois, especially with Ryan Walters. And you do have the Ryan. You can't call it a revenge game because Ryan left them, but you do sort of have that familiarity. The offense hasn't changed. Some of that things that sort of may help them there. And then they continue to play some of the worst teams in the Big Ten, finishing with Wisconsin, Purdue, and UCLA. I have all 3 wins. You have a loss at UCLA.
I was going to change the UCLA one, but we already talked about UCLA, so I didn't know if that was...
Oh, yeah. We already talked about UCLA. You gotta stick with it. Yeah. And then Oregon, we both have a loss. So they get 2, right? When we say their schedule is easy, it is pretty easy, but they do get 3 teams who realistically could beat them, 2 who are going to beat them in Ohio State and Oregon, and then Illinois is technically a team that's probably better than them. But their other 9 are legitimately just games that they should win. Like, even Michigan, I just think they should beat Michigan. So they could stumble a little bit. They could end up at 8-4. You have them at 7-5, which I think is crazy.
Well, it should be 8-4, but it's the UCLA one. I messed up with the Oregon thing. That's why.
Yeah.
I definitely have them going 8-4. I just can't change it now.
Yeah. So 8-4, 9-3. I think this is a good team that benefits from some continuity, some second year quarterback and coach, and then also benefits from playing most of the bad teams in the Big Ten, as well as an easy out of conference. They should definitely be 8-4 at worst. 9-3 is very possible, and if they really wanted to get freaky with it, they could go to 10-2. But I am not predicting that. Someone has to lose these games. All these teams can't be 10-2. That's just not gonna happen. It's not realistic. So I have 9-3. I think 8-4 is also reasonable.
I like 8-4. I don't, because I don't like your 9-3. I don't. Even though it's an easy schedule, I still don't like 9-3.
Yeah, so my thing is, and I don't like where your losses are, but my thing is, the worst they do is 8-4, and to go 8-4, that means they have to lose to Ohio State, Michigan, Illinois, and Oregon. Or they have to get upset. They essentially have to lose every game that they should lose, or get upset. And I just don't think they're going to lose both Michigan and Illinois.
That's fair.
Especially because Illinois comes to Washington and they won every game last year at home. That is a sneaky good home environment. So I just don't think that that happens.
A better team.
Yeah, I mean I do too, but I don't think they're that much better. Okay, so let's do Indiana. Indiana is coming off of making the first 12 team, what am I talking about? The first 12 team playoff. Everybody's wondering who's going to be the next Indiana. And if you ask Indiana's head coach, he says, why aren't we just going to be Indiana again? Because they did sort of rebuild in an interesting way, starting with getting a quarterback Nando Mendoza, who is very highly liked by the NFL. Nando Mendoza threw for over 3,000 yards and completed 70% completion. So he is sort of just kind of stepping in. And they had a really good offense last year. They have a really good offensive coordinator. And so I think for them, they're sort of hoping that they can just kind of keep up with what they did last year. They lost both of their running backs. Their running backs combined for 1,500 yards, and both of them had 10 plus touchdowns. So they're losing. Ever. Yeah, they're losing 20 touchdowns, 1,500 yards, but they brought in I-80 football show favorite Roman Hemby, who is a really good running back, and I think is going to be really good for them. They return.
That's scary.
Yeah, they return Elijah Sherratt and Omar Cooper, and then they lose all their other wide receivers. But Elijah Sherratt is very, very good, and many people are sort of considering him to be a top 3, top 4 wide receiver in the Big Ten. And then they brought in some transfers. On the offensive line, they were a Joe Moore Award semifinalist. The Joe Moore Award, if you do not know, is the award that's given to the best offensive line in the country. And they return 3 starters from that line, and they stole someone from Notre Dame offensive line. We need to look at Notre Dame. I mean, not on this show. This is the Big Ten podcast. But we need to look at Notre Dame. I keep hearing Notre Dame offensive line starters being transferred out. Like, what are we doing there?
That's kind of crazy.
Who's starting at Notre Dame right now? Like what's going on?
From national champion was like, man, I'm gonna leave. Like,
yeah. And then they brought in Zen Mikowski from Ohio State, and they brought a player back who left Indiana, went to Colorado, and came back. So the expectation is that they should have a good offensive line again. I mean, when you're a semifinalist for the best offensive line in the country, and then you return 3 starters and you steal a starter from another really good offensive line, I think the expectation is that you're going to have a good line.
You probably should have the best one.
Yeah, last year they had the number 1 rushing defense in America, the number 2 total defense, and they were number 6 in scoring. That is not what you expect out of Indiana. And so it's sort of hard to say that they're going to do that again. And part of the reason it's hard they're going to do that again is they're losing 7 starters. The plus, though, is they had 3 All-Americans last year, right?
Yeah.
All 3 of them are returning.
Nice.
So this is almost like Michigan last year, where like Michigan from 2023 to 2024 lost a bunch of starters on defense, but they kept their 3 best players. Indiana's doing that as well. Replacing 7 starters is not easy, but when you keep your 3 best players, that's very helpful. Mekhi Kamara had 10 sacks and 15 tackles for a loss. He's their first All-American defensive lineman in 2 decades. He's back. Aiden Fisher at linebacker is back. He placed 3rd in all Big Ten on the leaderboards. And then in corner, D'Angelo Pons is back. The rest is either young guys or transfers. Again, they're replacing 7 starters on defense. But it is nice to have your 3 All-Americans back. So a lot of this is going to determine sort of really on if the defense can do it, but also their schedule, while not the hardest schedule in the world, it is a little bit harder than it was last year. So I think maybe you knock off 1 or 2 of those wins. But they're returning 61% of their defense, and they're returning 62% of the offense, and they brought in what many consider to be one of, if not the best transfer quarterback on the market, a quarterback who was wanted by Georgia, who was wanted by Bama, who was wanted by a lot of these teams, but his brother plays at Indiana, so he went to Indiana. So I do think that this is going to be a good team again.
Oh, yeah. Definitely going to be a good team again. I think they might put up similar numbers. I think they'll be one of the top defenses and offenses in in the country once again because I think what's his name? What's his name? Kurt. He's put in a culture there that the whole school has bought into, and immediately bought into. It's not like it took a year or two. They took it and was like, yeah, this is us. We're going to be a physical team on both sides of the ball, and we're going to be mean about it.
Yeah.
We're going to believe it and be mean about it.
And people were basically asking him last year, like, why'd you take Indiana? What are you going to do with them? And he said, I win. Google me. Mm-hmm. And then he won. So good coach. I think Indiana's going to be pretty solid for as long as he's there. The problem for Indiana this year is they get both Penn State and Oregon, and then they also play some teams that are a little bit tough in Illinois and in Iowa. So there are some teams that can beat them. They could just go 10-2, which is only one loss off of last year, and just lose to Oregon and Penn State. But we both have them going 9-3. Although albeit different losses. But they do play 4 really good teams in Illinois, Iowa, Oregon, and Penn State. So it's sort of hard to expect them to win all of them, especially when they are replacing 7 starters on defense, even if their offense is going to be good. So to go through the schedule, we've already sort of cheated and told you that we have them at 9-3. But let's see how we get there. So Indiana starts out really easy, an easy 3-0. Old Dominion, Kennesaw State, Indiana State, easy 3-0. And then they have a tough 3-game stretch, although there's a bye in between, but they have a pretty tough early stretch. And I think it's interesting, again, that it's early because is your defense going to sort of be gelled? Is your offense going to be fully figured out? Last year, their offense was good immediately, so maybe that doesn't matter. But getting Illinois and Iowa back-to-back, I think that they split. We both have them splitting. I have them losing to Illinois and beating Iowa. You have them beating Illinois and losing to Iowa. Either way, we both have them going 1-1 in this stretch, and I think that's fair.
Yeah.
I don't know that they're gonna beat both of those games. Then they're off, and then they play Oregon at Oregon.
I'd be surprised if they did though.
Yeah, I mean they definitely could start out 5-0. I'm not picking it obviously, but they definitely could. Then they get Oregon at Oregon. We both have that as a loss, and then they get a cupcake for 3 weeks. With Michigan State, UCLA, and Maryland, we have all of those as wins.
And it's funny, like 2 years ago, this is tough. This is a tough schedule for Indiana 2 years ago.
Yeah. I mean, yeah. And then they go at Penn State, another loss, let's be honest. And then they finish it off with Purdue, which is an easy win, especially coming off a bye week. Their last bye week sucks. Getting a bye week like right before the end of the season, especially, and then you got to play Purdue. Like, honestly, I wonder if they do that. Like, they're not going to because they're probably not. If this team is in contention for a playoff, like let's say they're in contention for the playoff, I wonder if they just do the NFL thing and rest starters against Purdue. Like, we're not going to get injured. We can beat Purdue with our backups. So, yeah, their schedule is obviously harder again than last year. They have Penn State, Oregon, and they're both at Penn State and at Oregon. So I think those are easy losses. And then the question just becomes, can they sweep Illinois, Iowa, or do they lose one? We both have them losing. That's 9-3. It is 2 losses more than last year, but still a really good team who is the first team that we've talked about that just doesn't have a cakewalk schedule in this episode.
And it's not. It's crazy because it's the hardest schedule in this episode, and it's still not that difficult.
No,
technically. I mean, you got Illinois, you got Iowa, Oregon, and Penn State, but like, it's the hardest one. It's just not. It's not as hard as you would say about like last week's.
Yeah.
Some of the people from last week's schedule, like Wisconsin's schedule was crazy.
Absolutely. So to end the show, last team we have Illinois. Illinois, Illinois is returning.
11-1. There's no.
Yeah, I couldn't do it. So I had to find it somewhere, even though their schedule is also pretty easy. So Illinois is returning a decent amount. They're returning 78% of their offense. That is good for 6th in the country. They're returning
Nice.
72% of their defense. That is good for 11th in the
Really good.
country. They're essentially doing what Penn State did, except they don't have the level of talent that Penn State has. But this is
Yeah.
still a team that is essentially aiming to be the third or fourth team in the Big Ten to go to the playoff, to be in that sort of range. Them making the playoffs really sort of hinges on the Indiana game, which I think there are two teams that are at the same level, and
Yep.
only one of them gets in, right? So that I think that's an early season game, but I think that game is going to determine really their stakes. Bielema is just one of the best uh, coaches in college football. Barry Looney was a great hire as their offensive coordinator. He's just been making good decisions. They brought in Luke Altmaier 2 years ago. No one knew who he was, and he's gotten better every single year. And now he's going into his third year starter. They're returning their entire 2024 starting offensive line.
Nice.
It's just kind of like this is a team that's just sort of hard to beat. Like you were talking about, Indiana's coach bringing sort of an attitude and a mindset.
Yeah,
Um,
Brett Bielema has done the exact same here at Illinois for sure. For sure.
yeah, 100%. And so, really, their question in 2020. So They're also bringing back three of their running backs, bringing back the quarterback. They're bringing back the entire offensive line. Really, the only place that they lose people is on the wide receivers. They
And
lose
that makes
Pat
sense.
Bryant and Zachary Franklin, who combined for 109 catches, 1,600 yards, and 14 touchdowns. That is a lot of production to lose. It is a lot of
It
production to
is.
lose. Pat Bryant was an All-American, and he had 3 game-winning touchdowns for them. So that is a lot to
Man,
lose.
yeah,
But
that's not good.
they returned the next 3 wide receivers. They brought in Hudson Clement, who was the best wide receiver at West Virginia. So they're hoping that they're hoping that they're able to kind of continue on offense. But there's a chance that with losing some of that on defense, with losing some of the wide receivers, there's a chance that they go back to a sort of more run heavy approach. But even with losing that, they do still have good players, and they have a third year starting quarterback. On defense, they returned 8 starters, and then they took 3 starters from Wisconsin.
From Wisconsin, that had me in tears.
So,
Nowhere else, just Wisconsin.
and literally, basically, since again they're returning 8 starters, he basically just took 3 players from Wisconsin to start, like legitimately to replace the exact 3 players he lost. So, they have an experienced defense.
A very good experience defense.
Yes, a very good experienced defense. The only thing that they weren't really good at last year is negative plays. They didn't get a lot of sacks, and they allowed a lot of third down conversions, which happens when you don't have a pass rush. So they do need a pass rush this year. They need to sort of find that.
I think they did this year too.
But yeah, so they retained Gabe Lucas at linebacker, who's a very good linebacker, and they replaced Seth Coleman with Leon Lowry from Wisconsin. The back seven returns entirely intact. Xavier Scott also is back. He is, I believe, a corner. He became the third defensive back for Brett Bielema to earn first team All Big Ten. So this is a team where their defense was obviously a strength for them. The defense was a strength for them, and they returned 8 starters. This is a team that is returning 71% of their offensive production, 72% of their defensive production, and they're bringing back a really good coach, a good offensive coordinator, and they have a 3-year starter at quarterback. There's just no way that this team is not good, right? And they won 10 games last year. They beat South Carolina in the bowl game. I'm not saying that this team's going to be excellent. But it's just, this is a team that should be good. This is a team that should contend for the playoffs. If this team doesn't, it's going to be an epic collapse. Like we said, they don't have the level of talent, but they did what Penn State did. They brought all of their best players back and hit the transfer portal for the couple of places that they're
lost.
missing.
Yeah. And I mean, the whole point of what Brett's trying to do here is have them be competing in the Big Ten and in the playoffs consistently. And they were 9-3. Some cause they were literally a game away from being Indiana.
Yes. If they beat Minnesota, which they probably should have, but that was a weird game. If they beat Minnesota, we're having a conversation of should they be in the playoffs. So,
Yeah.
I don't really have much to say about Illinois. I think that I'm predicting that they make the playoffs. I think that they're going to be the fourth best team in the Big Ten. I think that they get that spot at 10-2. I think that they have a really good year, and they sort of pay off everyone sort of coming back and really sort of put the nail in the coffin of what Brett Bielema has done. He'll have to rebuild for next year because they're going to be losing a crap ton of people. But I think that's next year's problem, right? They do have some losable games. Yeah, like they do have some losable games. It's not entirely a cakewalk. They play Indiana. They play Ohio State. They play Washington, who's a team that we think is good. They play Duke, who's a team that could be pretty good. So I think we're going to know we're going to know within the 4 weeks, the first 4 weeks, if this team is legit or not. Because at Duke is a game that they could theoretically lose if they're not the team that we think they are. At Indiana is definitely a team that they could lose, even if they think we think we're the team that they think they are, that we think they are, because Indiana's a good team. If they, after 4 weeks, are 2-2, their season's basically done, right? If they're 3-1 or 4-0, it's like, okay. Like, I think it's going to be safe. If they're 4-0 after this, I think it's safe to say that, which I have them at 4-0, I think it's safe to say that this is going to be a pretty good team.
Yeah, I think so as well. I can see 10-2, 11-1 if they get real sneaky and keep a team from putting up points. I don't think anybody's really a world beater this year, so they could be really sneaky good, and people try to keep them out the playoffs because it's only Illinois. Yeah, but it's Illinois.
Yeah, I mean, realistically, I hate to say it, there's really not a reason that they shouldn't go 11-1 because they can't. Yeah. I'm not predicting it. Actually, I am predicting a win here. Yeah. But like they could beat Indiana. If they beat Indiana, the only other team on their schedule is Ohio State.
Yeah.
Like this. We're talking about last year's Indiana. It should be them basically. They really kind of have.
We were saying this would be the year for Illinois anyway to be what Indiana was last year. We were saying like. Illinois
Agreed.
Should be this next year.
Agreed. So go through their schedule to continue their schedule. We have them at. I have them 4-0. You have them 3-1. You have them losing to Indiana. We both have them winning the first 3 games. Then they play USC. We both have a win. They play Purdue. We both have a win. They play Ohio State. We both have a loss. I have them starting 6-0 and going 6-1. You have them at 5-2 with losses to Indiana and Ohio State, which is entirely reasonable and entirely possible. Off their bye week, they get Washington, which again is a tough game. It's at Washington, but it's off of a bye. You have a win. I have a loss. I should have already talked through this. I just didn't want this team to go 11-1. And if they don't lose to Indiana, I think they go 10-2. However it happens, but if they don't lose to Indiana. I think even off of a bye at Washington could be a tough game. Washington is a tough team to play.
That's fair.
Then they play Rutgers. We both have a win, and then they have a bye week, and then they finish the season with 3 winnable games with Maryland, Wisconsin, Northwestern. If we're being generous, they have 4 games that they could lose. They have Indiana, Ohio State, Duke, and Washington. Every other team they should beat, in my opinion. If they go 2-2 in the 4 games that they could lose, that's a 10-2 season, and that's probably a playoff team. The only way it's not a playoff team is if they're 10-2 with losses to Ohio State and Indiana, because that means Indiana is probably a playoff team, and they probably get booted out, and they're probably ranked 13. Instead of 12, because the Big Ten's not getting. I just don't think the Big Ten's going to get 5 teams in a 12-team playoff. So one of Illinois and Indiana can't make it. So 10 and
Yeah.
2, I have them in the playoffs. I think the
I
way
wish
you
they're
would
just.
have it, unless
It's like every. It's like other teams are just that bad. Where Illinois, it could be Indiana and Illinois, and there goes five because it's just. I can see the SEC being that bad this year. So
yeah, but it's also the SEC, and how bad would they have to be for them not to get 3 teams? I think the SEC is always going to get 3 teams. The Big Ten is always going to get 3 teams, and that fourth team is going to be up in the air. But where the I just don't think the SEC has a fourth 10 and 2 team where they do, where the Big Ten does, just like they did last year, and so I think that they get in. Um, that's it. Long show, as it tends to be with the previews, but that's it. That is our dark horse tier. We have 2 teams that we think can make the playoff. We have another team in Washington that we think is going to be pretty good and could scare some teams. The Big Ten is going to be fun this year. Next week is the last one, and it's going to be the championship tier. It's going to be the teams that we think that we both are expecting to make the playoffs. It's going to be the teams that one fan base is going to be disappointed when they don't make the Big Ten championship game, and it's going to be these are the 3 teams that we also think can win a national championship. But for this week, these are our dark horse, and I'm guaranteeing it because I think the Big Ten gets 4 in. One team out of this tier makes the playoff.
yeah, yeah, and it's probably gonna. As have we had it, it'd be Illinois.
Yep. No, I have Indiana. No, yeah. Sorry, Illinois.
Yeah, Illinois.
Messing up my eyes.
It's either one. Of those.
Okay. Yeah. So to end the show as we always do with our pit stop, mine is going to be very quick because the show runs long as it does when we preview. Peaky Blinders, in my opinion, is one of the best shows ever created. It's a very, very fun show. If you've never seen it, you should watch it. It's about British gangsters, a family of British gangsters. There's 6 seasons. They're coming out with a movie in January, and then they're dropping the 7th and final season over the summer next year. So we're going to get the completion of their story. And then there's rumors that they're going to do the thing that a lot of people are doing and kind of do the Peaky Blinders universe, where there's going to be like prequels or something like that, or like stories about certain characters. Like there's a character that a lot of people like that they may do like a sort of prequel on like her and everything. So I'm just very happy that the show is coming back. It's one of my favorite shows. It also has my 2 favorite white actors in it, being Tom Hardy and Cillian Murphy. And then boys be acting. Like them boys be acting. It's a very fun show. So
Tom Hardy is a good actor.
yeah. I'm just. I mean, it's a while away, January, but I am definitely excited that this is
It'll be
coming
January
out.
before we know it. So.
Don't say that. That means football season's over.
I mean, yeah, but football season almost here, and it was just.
I know.
April.
I know. I don't know how we got here.
It's fast. My pit stop is also quick. I just want to say I've been seeing a lot on like social media, like Twitter and stuff, that there are no good games out, or the gaming industry is dying because there are no new games, and like GTA 6 is either going to save the industry or it's could, and it's like. That's if you're saying that you don't really play games, and like even if you don't play games, you should. I can say there's about 70 games that are coming out this year that coming out, or will be coming out next year. It's 70 games, and all are pretty good games, cheap or free too. To sit there, I think I think people need to broaden their horizon, especially like 2K people, 2K and Madden people, because I think you need to stop playing those games to force those companies to make a good game. If you keep saying that there's no good games out, that means you need to stop spending your money on that game, so they're forced to make a good game. Because whether you believe it or not, you could get this company to give you a good game if they're not making money off of it. It's happened before with 2K18. I'm just saying.
Yeah. As I say all the time, am not a gamer. I do largely play sports games, but I also think because I'm not a gamer, I'm much more like generous and understanding with games. Like I'm not a super hard like grader on games. For me, like I don't need the graphics and everything to be perfect. I don't need everything to be realistic. I just want it to be fun. I do want my football game to be pretty realistic. Like a lot of people are complaining about NCAA and they're like, oh, it's harder this year. Oh, like you can't intercept it. And it's like last year's game was too easy. Like I'm sorry, I shouldn't have 2 corners with 10 plus with like 5+ interceptions and 3 defensive linemen with 8+ sacks. Like, that's a game that I want to be a little bit more realistic. But other games, just fun. It's just play them. So it's just, yeah. I mean, you're more involved in the sort of gaming stuff than I am, but to say that there's no good games is kind of crazy.
It's just a bold-faced lie. You're telling on yourself if you say something like that. There's no good games out there. I think you're legit telling on yourself. Because there's a lot. There's a lot of good games out here. And there's some DLC to games that are coming out. That have come out too.
For sure. Well, that's the show. As always, thank you for listening. Follow us on social media, YouTube, Instagram at Get Defensive Sports Network. You can follow us on TikTok at GD Sports Network. You can follow us. That's it. Yeah, make sure you share the show. You can find us on Apple. You can find us on YouTube. You can find us on Spotify. Share the show with your friends. Football season's coming up. We get better and better every year. And we'll catch you next week.